Welcome to Teal Table Talks. Teal Table Talks are an in-depth and behind-the-scenes look at what's going on at Soundscapes and in the community. And today we have our special guest, who you likely recognize. This is Robert Walters, but you probably know him as Bobby BlackHat, the award-winning, nationally recognized local musician. Thank you, Bobby, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So I would love, first of all, to just talk a little bit about you and your musicianship. You're an incredibly talented musician. How did you first get into music?
Well, actually, it was never part of my plan. Was not on my radar at all. Mm-hmm. When I was much younger, I was part of kind of a city choir thing, and my mother got me involved with that, one of my school teachers. And then I really didn't think much about music after I left that. And then when I was in college at Cleveland State University, I saw the band War. And War had a guy named Lee Oscar, who was a harmonica player. Mm-hmm. And I was just mesmerized by what he was doing with the harmonica. And I went out the very next day and bought 2 harmonicas.
Cool.
Different keys. I had no idea, anything about keys or anything like that. So I kept them with me all the time. I could play all the old standards, old Susanna, and all the old harmonica songs. And didn't think much about it, and then I joined the military. Mm-hmm. I did 27 years in the Coast Guard, and I always had the harmonicas with me. Thank you. And but I always had the harmonicas with me. I didn't even know that they were called harps back then. Just harmonica. Yeah. And but long story short, I kept them with me all the time. And about 2002, a friend of mine invited me out to hear his band, and it was the Blues Impacts. And I went out and heard the band. They had a harmonica player. And at the break, I was just talking with him. And I said, yeah, I play a little harmonica. And he said, do you? I said, yeah. And he said, well, why don't you let me hear it? So he got me to bring it out, and I played a couple of notes. He said, you really just need to get with a band and just, and just let it flow. Yeah. And he convinced me to go out to an open mic. My very first open mic was at an old place called Goodfellas in Hampton. Okay, yeah. And a good friend of mine, Will Dirty Red Gary, who plays with the Blues Impacts, got me to come out with him, and I remember I was watching them on stage, and they were just doing their thing, and then he said, I'm gonna invite my friend Bobby at the time, just Bobby, come on up. Yeah. And he literally drugged me on stage, kicking and scratching. Yeah. And he started playing this blues song, and I just started, just kind of tooting along, just kind of toot, because I really didn't know what I was doing in the blues side of it. I really didn't understand it at that point. And what he did then was he said, take a solo.
Just threw you in, just said go.
Just threw me in the deep water. Yeah. I almost swallowed the harmonica that night, because it was like, whoa. Yeah. But I was bit by the bug. Yeah. And he said, Bobby, you've been playing this harmonica all this time, to all these different artists and just kind of mimicking them. He said, you just need to just immerse yourself in it. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. Wow. And from there, it just all grew. Yeah. Because I'd been in the military, so I had other things in mind. I had other things to do. And I remember one night we were at at open mic, and that's when Don Butcher was there running open mic, and I came in one night with a hat, and I said, they said, if you're a blues guy, you got to have a hat. Okay. You got to have a hat. And I
was going to ask where that had come from.
Yeah, you got to have a hat. All right. And I went and got a hat, and then they said, and you got to have a name. You had like Blind Lemonist or some kind of name, and so I was trying to figure out what could I have, but what kind of name could I come up with this? I'm going. Something. I was going through everything and so I said, Bobby BlackHat. Bobby BlackHat. And so I told Don Bush, I said, maybe I'll go by Bobby BlackHat. He got on stage and introduced, here's Bobby BlackHat. About 2 weeks later, it was so internalized that that's the way it came.
Perfect.
It just happened. And I've been Bobby BlackHat ever since.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm surprised. I figured you'd been playing your entire life, so to find out that it's kind of newer for you, newer, 20 years.
It's relatively new for me, but I've been playing harmonica since 1972. Yeah. So I've been playing, just not playing, to play. Mm-hmm. So it was when I got hit with that really, because I love blues all that time. Yeah. And I went out and bought CDs by Sonny Boy. Well, actually, it was cassette tapes. I'm dating myself right now. But, by Sonny Boy Williamson and, LPs by Sonny Boy Williamson and Little Walter and all those guys. So I was trying to mimic them, and I love blues. I just never thought of myself as a blues musician in that right. Those guys were like way up here, and I'm just a little guy down here trying to figure out how to toot on this harmonica.
Yeah.
So I had been trying to play along, but he gave me the real, those fellas that time gave me the introduction to really put me deep into the blues. And that's when I said,
That's great.
that's it, because my dad listened to it around the house all the time.
Yeah.
My mom and dad used to dance to it.
Yeah.
So I just didn't understand it. So
Right.
once I understood it, and then I understood the most of the music that I really liked, all the soul music, all the Motown, all had its roots right there.
Yeah.
Gospel had its roots right there. Jazz, my dad had its roots. I went, oh yeah, the light came on.
Yeah.
The light came on.
I mean, you are a blues musician. What is it about the blues that, I mean, obviously that you've got a deep connection there. Like, what is it about that genre?
Blues is just pure. It tells a story of our lives, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And you play when you're feeling bad, you play the blues to feel better, and it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
A lot of the young folks, consider, in fact, myself way back when, the blues is always some guy in some 3-string guitar out in some field,
Yeah.
Singing some sad song. But once you realize and you immerse yourself in it and you start to listen to it and understand it, you realize that you've been listening to blues your whole life in one
Yeah.
form or another, and you just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, I say, everybody loves the blues, they just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah.
prove it. And in fact, I did an experiment with some folks. We did a little trio show a bunch of years ago over at the Children's Museum in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And I had, I guess, about age 6 up to maybe 12 or 13 years old in this room, maybe about 20, 30 kids. And we were just playing some standard blues songs,
Yeah.
nothing fancy. And then I said, how many of you know blues? And they all kind of like look at each other. And I said, I'm going to prove to you right now that you all know blues. I'm going to prove it to you. And I told the band, told the guys, I said, play a slow blues, standard 1-4-5 progression, just play a slow blues, 12-bar blues. And I told the kids, I said, now I want you to listen to this music. And when you feel something's about to change, I want you to raise your hand.
Okay.
So the kids were listening, and as we go through the 1, went to the 4, and I saw the kids kind of like, the hands kind of like hit, then,
Yeah.
and we changed, and then we got to, and then as we
Yeah.
went through the song, all of a sudden on every change, boom,
I love
boom,
that. I love that.
boom.
Yeah.
I said, you've been listening to blues your whole life.
Yeah.
That format, that chord structure has been in a lot of music you've heard throughout your life. You just didn't realize what it was and what the origins were.
Yeah.
I said, blues in Sesame Street, commercials,
Yeah.
movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
There's blues there all the time, and it's buried on there. And also, by the way, you hear a lot more harmonica than you realize. Harmonica is in the undertone of so much music that you don't realize it's there. And so I proved my point.
That's great. That's great. I love that. Well, just last year, you became one of our local commissioners for the Newport News Arts Commission.
Yes.
Is this your first time serving with the Arts Commission?
My very first time.
Fantastic.
I didn't know the commission existed.
Okay.
And my wife had sent me a little flyer that from Newport News, little flyer they put out. And she said, that's interesting. Did you know about this? I said, no, I didn't. So I did a little research, and they were looking for new members. And I said, I've always avoided being on the board of directors and
Yeah.
things like that, because I
Yeah.
always like to have I like to be able to speak my mind and then walk away.
Can't blame you there.
But this one intrigued me.
Yeah.
So I decided just to submit for it, and lo and behold, I was selected.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful experience. They do great work, and it's been nice to learn their mission and how I can impact that mission, and more importantly, how I can impact arts organizations in the 757.
Fantastic. And I mean, why? Obviously, you kind of stepped outside of your rule for yourself, like I'm not going to serve on any kind of board, and then you decided this was worthwhile. So, what is it about supporting local arts that made you kind of step out and put yourself out there for that?
Well, we have so much talent in this area. I mean, it's crazy how much talent we have here. As I go out of town and go places, I often have people say, "Oh, you're from Virginia. Wow, do you know these folks? You know those folks? They've heard of us.
Yeah.
They've heard of what we have." And you get to a point in your career where I've performed, I've done the late nights and all those kind of things, and done some road touring, and not a lot of that, but because that's rough work there. But I just felt that I had something to contribute, and this might be the place to do that.
Yeah.
I I'm a big proponent of grassroots support. Big proponent of grassroots support. You know, we don't get big orchestras
Right.
unless we start with small orchestras.
Yeah.
And we start with children and get them introduced to music, introduced to instruments, introduced to singing, introduced to all those things. We don't get the Super Bowl, you know, we don't get the Super Bowl stars
Yeah.
until we start here.
Yeah.
And so with my family, all of my children, my wife, my grandchildren, they're all into music some way, some form. My wife and all my children have all either recorded or performed with me. My grandchildren, they're off into the hip hop world and they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And now my youngest grandchildren, my grandson, he's 9, he played drums with me on the show recently.
That's great.
My other grandson has just got his own keyboard, so he's learning how to do keyboard now. So with that in mind, there's been music around, but it's always been difficult to find, you know, a place for those young musicians to perform, to do their thing. Soundscapes is a good example of providing young musicians a stage to get on.
Fantastic.
So I figured at this point, maybe that's where I can have my influence. Maybe that's the mission I have at this point, is to be able to create those opportunities, whether it be through helping with the funding for some of those things through the Arts Commission, or just being an advocate and giving, you know, musicians a voice and a place to go and do what they do. I enjoy bringing young musicians on the stage.
Yeah.
I enjoy that
Yeah.
because
You brought some Soundscapes musicians
yes,
up
I have.
on
Yes,
stage
I have.
before. Yeah.
And my approach, to the chagrin of many, I take a sink or swim approach to it. I believe in throwing them in the deep water. Because
Yeah.
number one, they know when we play blues, and blues is one of the few structures, one of the few music structures that you can grab a bunch of people that have never seen each other,
Yeah.
put them on the stage together, get a 1-4-5 blues structure going, and they all just boom fall in, they find their place and they make music on the spot, make music, and that's what these young folks do. I'll throw them in a deep water. I'll bring them up. I had some young, in fact, I had some Soundscapes, some horn players once,
Yeah.
and I said, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna do some blues. But what are we gonna do? We're gonna do some blues. I said, what I want you to do is, number one, I don't want you to think. I see you thinking. Stop thinking. I want you to feel. I want you to feel this. Close your eyes and feel this music. And when you feel that you should be doing something with your instrument, you should already be doing it. Don't think about it, because if you think about it, you've missed it. It's gone. This is passionate, in the moment, spontaneous, soulful music that comes from within. I said, you gotta let it out.
Yeah.
You gotta let it out. And okay, don't worry about it.
I know they were nervous. I was there for that show.
Oh, they were. But did you see after the first song?
Yeah.
I couldn't drag them off the stage.
Yes,
they
that was
didn't want
great.
to. They were hovering like, "Play me, coach, play me," which was
Yeah.
fine. Which is
It's a
fine.
lot of fun.
And also part of that is that teaching them there's a time and place. You have to wait. You don't. You're not always the star of the show.
Yeah.
You know, and so sometimes you got your spot. Now it's your time to stand over here. I always teach about how to take a victory lap too. You know, I tell them, I said, look, I can have you on stage all night, but if I bring you on stage for a couple of songs, and then I kind of slide you off stage, then what I want you to do is I want you to work the room. Go around, get the high fives, get the fist bumps, you know.
Yeah.
Let people praise you. Let people tell you that get that juice going. Get that praise from folks, because they want to do it for you, particularly if you're a young musician. So go take your victory lap.
Yeah.
Go take your victory lap and enjoy that. You won't always get that, but when you get it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we bring the young musicians on and we throw them out there and we let them do their thing and they have a good time. And they said, well, what if I make a mistake? I said, well, what is a mistake? In my view, for the blues, when I make a mistake, I'm just throwing in some jazz improvisation.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah.
I recently had a friend of mine did a seminar up in Williamsburg for the Winter Blues Jazz Fest, Victor Haskins, and he actually enlightened me to something. He said, these people talk about bad notes. What if I hit a bad note? It's not that you hit a bad note. It's not the note that you hit. It's the note that you play afterwards to make it right.
Ooh, I
So
like that.
when you hear a note and you say, well, all of a sudden you went off on a tangent. Well, we hear songs that go off on tangents all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that they went off on a tangent, it's what do they do after that note. So if you hit a note, how do you fix that note? In blues, a lot of times you hit a bad note, they just bend it. Like, see, they'll bend those strings up. Those strings are being bent up for a reason.
Yeah.
You know? And B.B. King said,
Yeah.
when I hit a bad note, I just bend it up to the one it's supposed to be. But in doing that, it sounds so cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It sounds so cool.
You're giving away all your secrets. Now
Oh,
we're going to know. This is good. This is good. Well, I love this now because, having seen you brought the young people from Soundscapes up on the stage, And then hearing that compared to your history, that's how you got started. You got pulled up, you got thrown into the deep end.
Thrown in deep water.
And look where you are now.
And look where I'm at now, yeah.
I love
I'm not
that.
sure where I'm at, but
it's good. It's good.
But it's a lot of fun. And I tell folks I have 3 rules. I have 3 rules that I adhere to for my band, and they're very simple rules. Rule number 1: have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Rule number 1: have fun. We have one of the few jobs where people leave their job to come to watch us work because they want to feel better.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
People come to watch us work because they want to feel better. What we do makes them feel better. They could be having a terrible day, tragedy in their lives. I've had some just times where I would just totally mind blown that somebody was in the audience because of something that happened. I had a lady have a song called "Hear Mama's Voice."
Yeah.
And we played at the Hampton History Museum, and it was laid out front, and she was there. And after the song was over at the break, she came to me and said, "Bobby, thank you. You know how you made my day today." She said she lost her mother that morning
Oh my
to
gosh.
Alzheimer's,
Wow.
the long goodbye.
Yeah.
She said, and her husband had said, "We're supposed to go see Bobby tonight. We'll cancel that." She says, "No, I'm not going to cancel that. Bobby's going to make me feel better."
Yeah.
And so,
Wow.
so she sat there, she cried, but hey, we made her feel better in
Yeah.
that moment. So music is powerful like that.
Yes,
So
it
rule
is.
number 1 is have fun. If we're having fun on stage, we project that fun out to the audience.
Yeah.
And I enforce that. Rule number 2, no whining. Don't whine to me. I know traffic was bad. I know parking was tough. I know it's cold. I know it's hot. I know you're hungry. Me too. So no whining.
Mm-hmm.
No whining. Keep the whining off my stage. Rule number 3, no drama. I understand you got issues at home. I understand. Don't bring it on the stage.
Yeah.
So rule number 1, have fun. Rule number 2, no whining. Rule number 3, no drama.
Okay.
Those are my rules.
Those are good rules.
Those are my rules.
Yeah.
And actually for the young musicians, the rule if you see me any young musician, first I say, "What's rule number 1?" And they always have fun. That's my thing with all the young musicians.
Love
Rule
that.
number 1, have fun.
Yeah.
I don't worry about the whining and the drama with them
Yeah.
yet. They'll learn that later
They'll
on.
get that, yeah.
Right now, rule number 1, have fun. They'll figure that out later on.
Yeah. So you have been such a wonderful supporter of Soundscape for so long. We talked earlier, you brought students up for your live shows. You've been out to see our program to work with some of the kids. We have something coming up soon. We won't give all of it away, but
No,
there
it's
might
not
be
a secret.
a collaboration coming up.
It's a secret.
Yep. But something to look forward to. But what is it, as somebody from the outside, like, what is it about Soundscapes that has drawn you to our program?
Well, go back to rule number 1, fun. I see the kids having fun.
Yeah.
And when they're playing their instruments, they're learning, they're having fun, and I think that's very important. They are learning about themselves and things they didn't know that they could do or they could think about. Families and parents. I've had parents going, "I never knew my son or my daughter had that in them." And
Yeah.
they've always been shy, but they get on the stage and all of a sudden
Yeah.
I see a whole new kid,
Yeah.
I didn't know I had. So I really love that. Like I say, I was able to do some things when I was younger, which I probably at that age didn't appreciate as much as I do now.
Sure. Yeah.
So those opportunities, I watch my own kids, what they've done. They've done so many different things, musically on their own, with me. So I think those are things that are good for kids to have. I'd rather see them on a stage learning an instrument than sitting there with a phone
Absolutely.
or an
Yeah.
iPad or something playing games.
Yeah.
This is something that stimulates them in ways that all those other things just don't, from my opinion. From my opinion. So the program is a program that focuses on the kids, and that's important. Again, as I've said before, you don't get the big people until you deal with the little people. You got to teach the little people. You got to grow.
Exactly.
You have to
Yeah.
grow those audience. You have to grow those
Yeah.
musicians, and that's an important part of what you guys do. And I love it. I love it.
Good. Thank you.
I'm an old guy, so they look at me and go, "Hey, the old guy," but so I find my niche,
Yeah.
get in, stick and move.
Well, I know I love what you said about, there are music experiences that you had when you were younger that you might not have appreciated as much then as you do now.
Yeah, exactly.
But that I mean, it's an investment. It's an investment we're making these young people.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I tell people all the time, you make a down payment today for the blessing you may need tomorrow.
Love
And for the things I do with the kids, it's always hard. It's a funny thing when you deal with your own kids. It's like banging your head on the wall. You know, it's like sometimes easy to work with other people's kids because they'll listen to you. Your own kids won't listen to you. But the interesting thing now is I see my children who are spouting back to me things I said to them when they were kids. You know, now they have their own kids. I go, oh. I say, the older you get, the smarter I get.
You're a little further along in this journey than I am. I'm looking forward to that moment. I haven't gotten there yet. Mine are teenagers, so I got a little ways to go.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but you know, they grow, and music is a good thing for them to grow with.
Absolutely.
And it's something they can take with them all the time. And like I say, all my children, they have their own little niches about what they do. You know, music. My son's a drummer. He likes reggae, but he's an awesome blues drummer. And he's performed with me, he's traveled with me, but he likes reggae. Okay, got it.
Okay, that's great.
My daughter, Kayla Simone, she's kind of neo soul blues. She's all over the map right now. She's doing a show tomorrow at at Hampton History Museum.
That's great.
And I've been drafted to be part of that now. I found out, but she's doing her own thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's not my genre.
Yeah.
It's her genre, but that's her thing. My other daughter, Maya, up in Richmond, she does her own thing. And she has a beautiful voice, and she plays guitar and ukulele and flute. And she went overseas, went over to the Middle East and did some shows. And,
that's awesome.
my daughter, Shayna, down who's a school teacher in Georgia, she sings. You know, and she played violin and some other things. So they've all had their niche. And in front of my daughter in Georgia, Shayna, she recently said, "Send me my violin. I want my violin again." So okay, there you go. Send her the violin. You know.
Great. I love that. I love that. That's great. Well, we are going to end every episode with the same 4 rapid fire questions. So get ready. Here we go. I promise they're not too hard.
Uh-oh.
All right, number 1. What's your favorite instrument?
Harmonica.
I love easy questions, right? Starting easy. What is a memorable recent concert that you've attended?
That I've attended, seeing Earth, Wind, and Fire and Chicago.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I've always loved Chicago.
Yeah.
And they were with Earth, Wind, and Fire out at the amphitheater.
Fantastic.
And, oh man,
I bet that was a good show.
That was phenomenal.
Excellent. What was your dream job when you were a kid?
Ooh, dream job as a kid. I don't think I had a dream of any job when I was a kid. For a while, I thought I wanted to be in Marines.
Okay.
I wanted to be in Marines, and I wanted to be in the Coast Guard. And that happened because my father, when I was about 9 years old, my father would take me down to visit the Coast Guard cutter on Lake Erie. And when I decided to join I was going to join, and I decided to join the Air Force. The morning I decided I was going to join the Air Force, that memory came back. And I walked out of the dormitory. I was at Cleveland State University, walked out of the dormitory. It was cold. The bus going downtown was the first bus there. That was the bus to the Coast Guard recruiter. Rest is history.
There you go. That's great. And if you had one magic wish for Soundscapes, what would it be?
Oh, wow.
It's magic, so you can do anything.
Imagine that you had all the funding you need to reach all the children that you could reach.
Awesome.
Because there's a lot of children that are not being reached. There's a lot of talent that's not being tapped into, and an opportunity to give them more opportunities to get on stage.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming out and having this conversation with me. And really, we'll look forward to some fun collaborations soon, and we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.